company, all my agents knew Rick's golden rule. And the golden rule was never, ever, 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 under any circumstances, do you allow more than 30 days to go by without personal communication between you and the people in your bullseye. And that's what it's all about. So you need to identify your bullseye. You need to have the names. You need to consciously recognize who your bullseye people are. I'm going to give you one. I'm beating this idea to death because it's huge. I'm going to give you one last comment. Let's pretend that you have 10 people in your bullseye. Psychologists tell us that the average adult knows 285 people. So picture, right here in front of you today, picture in your own mind your 10 people. Here they are. They're standing shoulder to shoulder. They're different heights and colors and sizes and shapes and ages and backgrounds. And there's your 10 people. Behind each one of your 10 people are standing how many? 285 people. If you do your job, if you work on, fine-tune, hone, whatever word you want to use, if you do your job and make that relationship stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger with your 10 people, they in turn have influence and access to the 285 people behind them, and that's where your business comes from. Does that make any sense to you? There's a huge misunderstanding in this industry that a lot of people think that their business comes from those people right here, from the standpoint that they buy and they sell. Their business should be a foregone conclusion. What you're after is not their business. You're after the business that they have access to. Does that make sense to you? But it won't happen unless you nurture that relationship with those most important people. You need to send them an introductory letter. For those of you who are new, you've got to lay this thing out. I provide the letter for you right in the workbook. You've got a workbook. You're following along with this DVD series right now. And use the letter. Massage it, make it feel, your own. If you're new to the business, you want your introductory letter, that you're excited to be in this profession. And give them the rationale why you're excited. If you're experienced, some of us, quite frankly, we need to send the letter even if we're experienced. We've been doing this for years. But here's the truth. Here's the truth. Some of us have been so remiss in having continuing relationship with our most important people, we've got to send a letter that I call the please forgive me letter. Because we haven't had consistent contact. Is that all right if I say that?
Yes.
And so if you're watching this series right now and you're saying, man, this is like church, he's talking to me. All right? I've been selling real estate for 4 years and I haven't had any real constant communication, then you need to send a letter to your folks, and I provide the letter to you on what you might want to say as to why they haven't heard from you on a consistent basis. And then you make a commitment that they're going to hear from you on a more consistent basis from this point forward. Let me just very quickly, because I'm going to give you some activities to do here in a few minutes, but I want to give you the step-by-step how I did the things that I did and how I've taught for years. When you meet people and you try to get one name and address per day, which is, I think, a real healthy objective, the teller at the bank, the waiter at the restaurant, the guy, selling the tires, I don't care who it is. I try to get one name and address per day. I have a system on how I get people's names and addresses. And here's my system. Step one, I simply compliment the person. I just compliment them. You did a great job. You got a great personality. I bet the bank's glad you're working for them. Maybe it's something like, I hope I do as good a job, and my job is what, you did for me today. You did a great job. I compliment them. And then I tell them something like, you'd be great in my business. You say, I'm in a real estate business. I always make sure in the conversation, whenever possible, it comes up that I'm in a real estate business. Because what many of you have already discovered, even if you're real new in the business, when it comes up in a conversation, in a 30-second conversation with the waitress at the restaurant, that you're in a real estate business, they almost always say something about the real estate market. Is that true? Boy, I heard the market's in a tank. Hey, what's going on with interest rates? Hey, I tried to sell my house for 12 months. Couldn't sell. They're going to say something about real estate 4 out of 5 times. When they do, then I use real estate statistics. I use real estate statistics right there in that conversation. Now understand, I'm talking a 30, 45-second conversation. So I don't, just rattle out all these stats. I give them one or two statistics. Well, as a matter of fact, the market is tough. It's the toughest we've seen in a long time. Example, last year, the average time to sell a home was 143 days. Today, it's taken us 165 days to sell a house. Last year, we had 7 months of inventory, 7 months worth of houses on the market. Today, we've got 9 months worth of houses on the market. I mean, just something about real estate. Because when I use one or two statistics, it gives me that what now? Credibility. It sends a message of confidence. I tell them I then have a special list of people. And here and you're taking a little bit out of sequence here, but here's how it flows. You did a great job for me today. You got a great personality. I bet the bank's glad you're working for them. As a matter of fact, I'll be honest with you, we could use people like you, what I do for a living. I'm in a real estate business. Yeah, the market, it is a tough market out there. As a matter of fact, last year it was this year is this. You know what? I got a special list of people that I send information to every single month. Just got a special list of people I just mail information to every single month. And if you'd like to be on a list, kind of local real estate information, what's going on, if you'd like to be on a list, I'd love to include you. Could you say that? Because you know what you're going to hear people say 65% of the time, 2/3 of the time, they say what? Put me on a list. The biggest advantage you have going for you in this business? People are fascinated by what you do. People are fascinated by real estate. And then I send them a handwritten note within 24 hours. That's my system. I simply send them a handwritten note. Hey, thanks again for the great service. Hey, enjoyed, getting to know you. Look forward to sending information to you. And then I add them to my monthly mailing program. So that is a step-by-step system. That's how I did it. It might work for you. When I call people, because these things I'm going to tell you to do here in a few minutes. When I call people, I have steps to a phone call. I begin this way. When I call people I knew pretty well, I said to them, Dwayne Eisenberg, my best friend. Hey, Dwayne, it's Rick. Hey, listen, Dwayne, I'm calling you with my real estate hat on. It took me 5 years to discover that beginning of a phone conversation that made it so easy now to have a real estate conversation. One of the things I struggled with early in my career was calling people that I knew fairly well and having a real estate conversation because I was always sensitive that I might be violating our relationship. Anybody know what I'm talking about there? And so I had to come up with a way that I was comfortable with actually initiating a real estate conversation with people that I knew pretty well. And what I evolved to was this one right there, and that is, hey, I'm calling you, hey, Dwayne, I got my real estate hat on tonight. That granted me permission now to have just a short conversation about real estate. I began with whatever common ground we had. I always begin my phone conversations with common ground. Whatever we had in common, that's what I began with. And then I might start the call with the point of the call. I'm in the office right now. I've got an appointment in a couple of minutes. I always said that so that one, I conveyed a message that I'm working. I'm in the office right now. Two, I built in an automatic termination device. I got an appointment in a couple of minutes. Now, maybe the appointment is for my next phone call, but I had an appointment. It's important because some of the people we get engaged in phone conversations, it's difficult to get off the phone. Yes or no to that one? And so I built in a termination device. And then maybe the real point of the call was, hey, I've been working with a buyer for the last few weeks, can't find a house for this guy. So I'm just calling people I know, today. If you don't mind, take 30 seconds, tell you what he's looking for, just in case you happen to run into someone's got a home like that they're thinking of selling. And if that happened, would you mind giving him my name and number? Would you mind giving him my name or number? It's a very easy conversation to have. One that just flows. The total conversation takes about 90 seconds. And then I always end on the same common ground that I began with. That is my phone call right there. That's the nuts and bolts of my phone call. Again, my phone conversations usually took between 1.5 minutes and 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes at the most. Easy to get in and get out of a phone conversation. You've got to call people. The more experience you have, the more success you have, the more important it is to actually pick up the phone and call people. Because it's one of the first activities we quit doing. Would you accept that, by the way? And if you need to get out there and generate a deal, like in the next 10 days, there's no better way to do it than start working the phones. You just start calling people. And I virtually guarantee you call enough people, you'll get something going in the next 10 days. That's just the way it works. Handwritten personal notes. I have a system for handwritten notes. They're 3 to 5 lines long. They're short and to the point. I use a broad tip pen. I don't use fine point pens. I use a broad tip pen. Psychologists tell us that a broad tip pen has a more positive subliminal message to the reader than does a fine point pen. I'm talking about a little felt tip pen. Okay? It also takes up more space in your note card too, all right, which is a nice thing. And then I sign with a unique close. I try to do something a little different. I don't like signing notes sincerely or regards. I mean, everybody says that. You know, something a little bit different. And then I also put the date and time in my upper right-hand corner of my notes. I always put my time in my notes. Especially important if you write your notes early morning or early evening. So, you know, 6:45 p.m., 7:35 a.m., it's a very subtle message that they're very, very what to you? Very important to you. So handwritten notes, the truth is, I'll just make the comment, and I think most of us accept, in this day and age, we're in a technology, you know, era of our world, a handwritten note today has more impact than it's ever had before in the history of our country, yes or no? It's a lost art. It's a lost art. It's been replaced by what? Email. And I'm a huge proponent of email. But an email will never take the place of a handwritten note, ever. And then send a minimum number every day. And I think 10 notes a day is a real good number. That's what I did in my career, and that's what I'm going to suggest you do. So here we go. Let's just kind of cut to the chase. Here's our week 1 tasks. Here's what I'm going to ask you to do for the next 7 days. I believe you should take a day off. 5.5 days work week, that's plenty. But these are the kinds of things I think we should undertake. Number 1, I think it's healthy to be in the office at like a real job. I know people, you know, work out of their houses. I understand that. But I got to tell you, it takes a tremendous amount of discipline to work out of your home. Is that all right if I say that? I think there's a lot to be said for just coming to work. Like, oh, I got to go to work. Remember those days when you had like a job? Well, this is a job. Selling real estate's a job. And I think you need to be in the office. I want you in the next week, I want you to expand your sphere by 10 people. That means a couple people a day, 5 days a week. That means that you go somewhere different for lunch every day. The teller at the bank. I mean, I don't care how it is. You get 10 more names. It's critical to your success. You need to memorize these statistics that I gave you and then use them in this first week. Find an opportunity to use those statistics. You need to complete your first market study of your first neighborhood. Maybe the manager's going to select it for you. Maybe you select it. That's up to you. And then I want you to preview 15 homes. If you're relatively new in the business, there's no replacement for knowledge by going out there and looking at the inventory. You've got to see the inventory. And 15 homes, that's got to go to the top of the list. I'd also like for you to listen to one CD, audio CD or DVD, or maybe maybe there's a streaming a download, some streaming video on an internet site, but expose yourself to more ideas. I want you to listen to one CD or DVD or something. Expose yourself to more and more real estate ideas. And then take a top agent to lunch. You may probably have someone in the office that's pretty successful. I think you take them to lunch. I give you the questions to ask them that's in your workbook. As a matter of fact, here's a tip. You offer to buy their lunch. All right? You take them to lunch and you pick their brain and you buy their lunch as a return favor. I want you to call 25 people in your database in this first week. 25 people. That's minimal. 25 people, and as I say, begin with your bullseye people. They're the easiest people to call, and I gave you a couple ideas on how you do that. I also want you to write some handwritten notes. I think 5 notes a day is a real good start. That's 25 notes in your first week. Because a lot of people have never had any experience writing notes. It's a totally foreign concept to them. So I want you to get into it maybe slowly, 25 people. I want you to have 100 names in your database by the end of the week. Put them together, get your Christmas card list. I don't care what it is people used to work with. You get together 100 names and addresses. And then finally, I want you to mail your introductory letter sometime during this first week. That is the assignment. Those are the tasks for your first week. It shouldn't take more than about 3 hours or so, 4 hours to do most of those activities. Previewing homes, that's kind of outside that time frame. But if you do those activities, at the end of the week, you will have a sense of accomplishment, yes or no? And I know you will.